So to mount that unit, this is what I'm going to use. It's a suction cup type deal. Goes on your window. I used to use it for my phone. Hold on, I'm on my phone now, so let me. Anyway, that's the plate right there. That's what the magnet sticks to. This was stuck to my old phone case and it come off, so I'll get another one, but I can either clean this one off and glue it to the back end of that LCD display, or I can just get another one, stick on it. But anyway, so just magnetic. You mount it like right here, or I mean under it, which my rear view's gone, but under the rear view, wherever you want to mount it, so it's out of the way of your sight, but you can still see it. This is the display, and this is like the little case it comes in. What I'll probably do is glue this to the back of this case so that I can slide, display in and out at any time and look at it and put it back in, so that this thing itself is not attached to it. It's probably what I'm gonna do. But I got it turned around this way to keep messing my screen up. But that's probably what I'm gonna do, is stick that on the back of there and then use this somewhere. I ain't figured out where on the window yet, but I think that'll work pretty well because I used to use it for my phone. So when it comes to that setup with it, I'm just gonna show you on the paperwork because I already set it up on the actual thing. So instead of going through and showing you the hit and cancel, I'll just show you on here. But you go on here and it looks exactly like that. And you'll hit wizard when you first turn the key on. You hit wizard. And at that time, the fuel pump or anything won't prime because it hasn't set up yet. So then you'll go and you'll select which one you got, which that's the model there if you got this one. Then you select your number of cylinders, obviously 8 for me, it's the 350. This, you can tap that and move it on out, or you can hit the buttons, and it comes with a little stylus too, about that long, and you can use the tap it too to get it right on. And then whatever your idle speed is, set that. Your cam, it tells you on here, let's see, right there, for stock mild, it works for most, obviously stock and mild camshafts. Street strip, it even tells you if your engine is between 8 and 13 inches of vacuum, manifold vacuum, which you can put a vacuum gauge on there. Well, if you already had it running, if you're putting this on a new engine, you won't know exactly how much vacuum, but whatever your cam specs tell you the vacuum is, I'd probably go off of that. And obviously race, if it's less than 7 inches of manifold vacuum. I did mild. Said if you're unsure, just hit stock mild, which that's what I clicked on. And I got a vacuum gauge. I can check my manifold vacuum, and you can always go back later, but it learns itself anyway. So anyway, and then if you're not using the CD box or none of that dual sync, whatever, if you're just using the distributor like I am, you'll select coil negative. Now, of course, if you're using the timing control from Holley, you'll do something different. And then after that, once you answer all the questions, you hit start, and then it'll say finish, which, okay, that's a different one. It'll say finish, and you hit finish, and you'll cycle the switch, turn it off, turn it back on. But once you hit finish, you'll hear the fuel pump prime, like the computer tells it to cut on, because there's a relay over there for that. So anyway, I'm about to fire it up. I got everything tidied up. Let me show you these clamps I use. I ordered these off Amazon. So they are the Lockman cable clamps. It's 3/4 inch, but they're like hose or cable clamps. It's got the rubber insulation on there. So I took those, and where it comes up from under the frame down there, it runs along. You can't really see because it's kind of dark, but it runs along there on the fender. I'm using those to hold the hose in place, as you can see. Now these, what I did, I drilled, marked where I wanted them, and drilled them, and I used those little plastic rivets. I got a box of this like this from Amazon, the different sizes. I use these right here, the 1/4 inch rivets, so I can take them on and off. You can also use those, and they hold pretty good, but you have to pull them out with some pliers or fish skinners, what I use. These right here, old catfish skinners, they work good for pulling those out. But I use these so it's easier to get in and out if I need to, just to hold it in there. Obviously, you pop it through these, put that around your hose first. and then obviously you put it around your hose first, and then you squeeze that down and put it through there, and then pop it into the hole that you got drilled in your fender if you're gonna do like I did. And that holds pretty good. So I got my lines ran, finished, you know, setting where they're gonna be. And got that wire fixed, and we're all good to go. I actually fired it up already one time because I wanted to make sure it's running and everything before I secured exactly where my fuel lines are gonna be. A few places here I took like some 3/4 or a little smaller heater hose and put it around this fuel line just where it rubs the engine, and down here like where this bolt is on the bracket, just to keep it from rubbing through. It'd take forever to rub through it, but if it did, it'd probably catch on fire. So I wanted a little bit better insurance, I guess you call it, for that. This one's just overkill because that's just rubbing on the hose, but I just put it in there anyway because I had a piece left over. But everywhere it's rubbing on the block or the brackets, or down there on the frame, or I say block, the engine, or down there on the frame, I put a little bit of that heater hose around it, zip tied it on. I just split it down the middle with some cutters and then zip tied it on it, so it wouldn't rub into. Let me show you one thing I did, which I'm about to fire it up for you. But one thing I'll show you real quick, if you're like me, when you're setting up the fuel system, it may save you a little time. So to start with, I turned it on, it primed, and I turned the engine over, and it wasn't firing, but I know, or it wasn't running, like it wasn't getting fuel, and I know that wire was right, and everything is set up just like it's supposed to. So I got to thinking, so I got under here, on your little fuel tank splitter thing. If you're like me and you have the dual tanks, your setup will look like that with the little valve. So obviously I mentioned this before, this is the 1/4" one is the old return. You don't need that, you can take it out. I just left it just because, in case I ever need it later on in the future. The rubber one, obviously coming off the pump, is your like I said, I got it routed around there. It's your supply now. And then I used the old supply hardline for the return because I didn't have room to run a whole nother rubber one, and it works just fine. But what I had to do is, because it was lined up with this one, I had it right here, and then the supply up here, and I got to thinking, I was like, hang on, it's not getting fuel. Well, duh, wasn't thinking, I had just put the hose back where it was because it was already there, but I had it I had the return, the supply on the return, so it was just priming. It wasn't priming, it was sucking air. So make sure, if you're gonna do this like I did, the top one is your return, the bottom one right here. I know it's dark and you can't see. Let me see if you can see better. If you're looking at the back of the splitter like this, there's only two right here, because this other one that comes up right here, it's just a vent basically. But on this one here, the bottom one is your supply for your fuel from your fuel pump. This top one is your return. So all I had to do was spin this one up. It was right here. I just spun it up here to connect to the return up there. And after that, it primed up and had no issues whatsoever. And now that it's all good to go, I'm gonna fire it up real quick just to let y'all hear it run. And then I'll give you my final thoughts on it and what I think about it so far. So when you first turn the key on, you can hear it prime. It usually doesn't run that long. It primed that much this time because I had to take the fuel hoses off and shorten them up a little bit where they clamp on there because it had too much slack. So it just reprimed it. But your wizard comes up like that, and I already have it on the vitals. You click on sensors or vitals, whichever one you want to do. Click on one of them, and this pops up, and you can see your RPM, which is stall until you crank it. This is your temperature. I was wondering, like, what the heck is CTS? If that's your temperature, engine temperature, it has to get up to, was it 210 or not 210, 160 before it starts learning. And then of course your auto air control position and TPS. I'll explain more of that in just a second. right there. My idle air control is 35, my TPS is 0, and that's my temperature. Normally, when you first prime it up, it fires right up, but like I said, this is my first fire up since I had to take those fuel lines off, so it wasn't quite primed up. But we'll just start it back up again and show you. Wizard comes on. See, fires right back up. Now, one thing, I'll give you my thoughts on this. Before with the carburetor, this is a mild cam, but if you like a lope, now if you got a wilder cam, it wouldn't make much difference. But a couple things I noticed running this Holley sniper setup, it gets rid of a little bit of the lope. It still has a little bit, and you can hear it somewhat. But before, when I had the carburetor, it was just pop, 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 you know, the sound. And it sounded great. I put this on there, you know, it holds more consistent as far as the air fuel ratio and all that. It's computerized, so it got rid of a little bit of the lope, which is disappointing to me, but there's no choking. Well, that's the negatives, but on the positive side, there's no choking. You don't have to choke it, fire it up. You don't have to tap the gas a couple times. You know, none of that. You just turn the key over, let it prime, and fire it right up. Tomorrow when I come down here, it'd fire right up on the first lick because, like I said, the fuel lines, it hadn't ran since I took the fuel lines off. But anyway, it'll fire right up. The throttle response, I've took it for a drive. The throttle response is a little better. Yeah, you can tune the carburetor perfectly, but I don't know. This one's still a little better. I like old school stuff. I like a carburetor too, but I wanted to try this, and personally, I like this a little bit. Other than the lope of the engine when it's running, I like that a little bit better with the carburetor, but everything else so far, I like this. One other thing that's a little tricky with this is setting the idle air control. It explains it to you in the book, but you'll go on here, and the idle air control is down here, IEC position, and the TPS percentage up here. It tells you, which is not on there, but I'm just telling you about where it's at. It tells you to adjust your screw. You have to take this off, your air cleaner. But right over there on the side, there's a throttle. Let me see. Back there, I'm not gonna take it off to show you now, but you'll see it. There's a screw on the side right here. If you know anything, it's kind of like a carburetor. There's your throttle, your idle screw. So it tells you to, once you can't do it before your engine gets warmed up. Once it gets up to temperature, then you adjust it. You run it in or out, whatever. You get your idle air control, which is your IEC percentage between 2 and 10%. So, you know, aim somewhere in the middle or whatever, but anywhere in that range. But your TPS has to be at 0%. If your TPS goes above 0 to 1, 2, whatever percent, you recycle this switch, turn it, crank it back up, and start adjusting it again. That is the number one. Those are the two most aggravating things. A, it isn't, you know, with a milder cam, some of the loop's gone, but B, messing with the idle, they're kind of hard to get. They're finicky, you have to get it right. I finally got it where it was reading about 2 or whatever. And, you know, it'd go up, it'd stay around 5 or 6, whatever, and then it'd slowly go back down and hit 1 or 2, and then may hit 0 and go back to 2. I don't know, I finally got it, but it's idling just fine. I may adjust my idle speed up just a hair. I had it set on like 650, just because that's where it's got the most lope with this particular, I guess, cam in this setup. But you can run it whatever you want to. Change it on your computer. You can just, on this one, you don't have to really do the whole thing again. It says a spot for tuning. You hit tuning, you hit basic, and then you can adjust your idle speed, target idle speed. But then of course you got to come back here and mess with the screw a little bit and get it, because it tells you your RPM on there, and get it exactly about where your target is on there, and make sure your percent. That's my biggest complaint on this whole thing so far is the dang. Okay, make sure I had some brake fluid leaking. That's why this rag's over it, but I'm trying to make sure it wasn't coming down. I got a whole setup to change that out, which will be another video. But anyway, that's the one aggravating thing, is messing with your idle air control. Once you get it figured out, I guess it'll be okay. Maybe you don't have to adjust it no more. But that's my biggest complaint about this here system. Everything else so far, I don't really have no many complaints about it other than that. And to start with, you're gonna have to fiddle with a carburetor when you first get it tuned in anyway, and then probably more in the future later on before it needs rebuilding especially. But I don't know, I don't really have any complaints other than that. And that's not even really a complaint, it's just a step you gotta do to make sure it runs right. But that's it. The only thing I got left to do is run through the firewall to mount that the unit somewhere. Other than that, that's all I got left. I'm not gonna bore y'all with that, showing y'all that. That's all I got left. So that'll pretty much wrap up this video. If you have a truck like this and you're gonna do exactly how I did it, it'll take you probably a good weekend to get it set up. Me, it took a little longer just because I had to figure out what I was going to do as far as the fuel pump mounting location. I had to come up with that bracket and all that, and figure out where I was going to run everything. And I had a leak right here with a sensor. Another thing I'll tell you, the sensor right here. Of course, I had to get an adapter pretty much, but this here sensor, it already has the red thread sealer already on there. Go ahead, brush it off with a wire brush. Whatever you got to do, get it off. And straight from the get-go, put some thread sealer on there, like the blue liquid thread sealer, whatever, and it won't leak. Because mine was leaking because of the thread sealer that was already on there. But anyway, so I'd piddle around, figure out where I wanted to route everything, figure all that out. So it took me a little longer. But if you're going to do exactly how I did it, and knowing now what I knew then, straight off the get-go, shoot, it wouldn't take you but a weekend, and you'd have it up and running. But maybe this helps some of y'all out if y'all are planning on doing Holley Sniper with one of these old trucks, especially with the fuel system, because the way you're supposed to mount the fuel pump and all that, or where you're supposed to mount it. Maybe this will help y'all out. I hope y'all enjoyed the video, and I appreciate y'all watching.